I had a really strong relationship with my mom growing up. My mom taught me to read very early, before I even went to kindergarten. She would always sense when I was upset, and she would take the time to comfort me and hear me talk about my pain. And even on good days, she would lay at my bedside and have me say my nightly prayers. I think the love and compassion my mom showed me when I was young is why I have such a big heart for others now. She taught me how to love. So if you felt love at all from me, we should all thank my mother. My dad worked a lot when I was younger. He worked overtime quite often to provide a good living for our family. I'm the youngest of 4 children, and I came much later than my 3 sisters. My sisters say that I was an accident, but my mom says I'm a miracle. I'm a miracle. My dad, he would come in the house exhausted. He would eat dinner, and then he would fall asleep watching television. On the weekends, though, I would jump on my dad's bed and make him wake up to take me swimming. My dad, I know, purposefully stayed in bed because he enjoyed me begging for his attention. My dad would take his sweet time getting ready, and the more I begged, the longer he took. And I've learned this bad habit from him now, and Shannon gets really annoyed when I take long to get ready. But I knew my dad loved me because he took me swimming on the weekends. My dad worked for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company for 40 years. And one day he was ironically training new employees how to climb telephone poles when he fell himself and broke his back pretty badly. And it took him a while to recover, but when he did decide to go back to work, they offered him an early retirement package. And my parents decided that this package was too good to pass up, so he retired at 61. And my dad was home a lot more after that, I mean, all the time. My dad drove me crazy. And I was in college at the time, and I still lived at home to save some money, but I was hardly ever at home. And when I was at home, I just wanted to sleep or study or watch television. I did not want to talk to my dad. And my dad and I, we fought a lot before he retired, especially after he retired. I just didn't get along with him much at all. In my junior year in college, I became a youth minister, and I needed another adult to go on the mission trip with me, and so I asked my dad to go because he was retired and he had nothing better to do. And that mission trip changed our relationship forever. I had maybe seen my dad cry twice in my entire life before that, but after that trip, I had seen my dad cry countless times. My dad saw my passion and what I love to do, and he became my #1 fan after that. Or maybe my dad was always my #1 fan, and I didn't realize it before that trip. I saw how my dad was just as goofy as me, or maybe I was just as goofy as him. Everyone loved my dad and his lovable sense of humor. I guess I was so afraid of being embarrassed by him that I never realized what embarrassed me about him was what everyone else loved about him. And what once annoyed or embarrassed me about my dad, I realized was some of the traits that I have. Henry Nouwen says, "I hate the me that I see in you." In other words, we often hate in others what we see in ourselves, and that definitely relates to our parents quite often. I was often annoyed with my dad because honestly, we're so much alike. But after that trip, we really understood each other more. And now I love talking to my dad. Now whenever my sisters get annoyed or upset with my father, they say, "Russell, will you please talk some sense into Dad?" And my dad and I, we understand each other. We see each other's hearts. And when we really stop to think about it, I mean, life truly is about our relationships. Jesus said the greatest commandment is what? To love. Love God, love others, love yourself. Love and relationships are central to our lives. I mean, it's crazy how quickly love and relationships can lose focus in our lives, though, if we're not careful. One question that I always ask couples when they're planning to get married is, where did you learn what you know about love? And is this a good thing or a bad thing? Good or bad, our relationship with our parents can be the most formative relationship. We are shaped greatly by what our parents teach us about love and life. I mean, think about this. Where will our children learn how to be happy the most? I mean, during these 2 to 3 hours on church on Sunday, during their time at school, by what they watch on television, or by what they see at home. Church and school have endless value in our development and our spiritual formation, but I believe home is where we first learn what to give value to. We learn the value of relationships first at home. We even learn whether to give school or church value at home. What we do at home, when no one is looking, teaches our children what to give value to. Our children first learn about marriage from their parents. They learn how to love their future girlfriends or boyfriends and eventually their spouses from what they see from their parents. You know, if their parents are always fighting and yelling at one another, then they see that this is okay for them to do too. If their father never does anything nice for his wife, then they learn that this is acceptable behavior. That is, unless they see how it affects their mother, they vow never to do the same. But if they see their parents being cold to one another and never showing each other much affection, then they learn that physical touch is not needed, and it might be hard for them to hug their spouses in the future, or even to show affection to anybody. On the other hand, if mommy and daddy are making time for one another and choosing to show grace to each other, and when they're upset and choosing not to yell at one another and respect one another, this is teaching our children a foundation upon which they will act out themselves. No matter what parents say, children will do what their parents do. You know, many times, how children see their parents treating each other, other family members and neighbors and even strangers, is learned behavior that they will act out themselves. I've been reading some more on the Robertsons, the Duck Dynasty family that we celebrated last week. And Willie and Corey Robertson say that they make a point that whenever someone first walks in the door, whether it's Willie or Corey or their children, that they make a point to greet them and to hug them and to ask how their day was. This is very important to them because it shows how they value one another. And another value that they try to teach is how things are never more important than people. If someone is trying to have a conversation and the television is on, they will turn the TV off because talking to each other is always more important than what's on TV. I mean, today we really have no excuse because many of us have DVRs and we can press pause on live television. But we must make this conscious effort to put our families before the things in our lives. Television, cell phones, computers, whatever. What we show our children we value now is what they are going to value later. As Proverbs 22:6 says, train your children in the way they should go, and when they get older, they will not turn from it. The truth is, happiness is hard work. It takes an intentional effort to take time for love and relationships. See, back in January, I thought Carol Provost was playing a cruel joke on me when she was being rushed to the hospital during Texas A&M's bowl game. It was hard for me to get up and leave during the middle of the game, and that I was so excited to watch, but really, what mattered most? A game or someone who needed love and attention and prayer? When it comes to our families, what will we regret later? The time that we missed the football game or the television show to spend more time with our families? Or the time that we spent too much time at work and didn't spend time with our families? I mean, it's easy for us to place value on the wrong things. In fact, I mean, this is what we understand from commercials. The commercials tell me that I'll be happy when I buy a new car. I'll be happy when I buy Papa John's pizza. They say, this will make you happy. But that's simply not true. Happiness is not found from something external. It's found in the internal heart work. Understanding and reflecting on what we value and making sure that we're centered on loving God, loving others, and loving ourselves. Because we cannot give what we don't have ourselves. You cannot love if you don't have it yourself. See, a friend of mine said this last week, that he realizes that his heart is happier when he takes the time to read the Bible. He is more focused and ready for the day. And on Tuesday, my washer had broke, and Tom Christmas offered up his home for me to be able to wash my clothes there. And out in Sitra, where Tom lives, my AT&T phone service doesn't work. So for one day, I was completely disconnected from the world. I couldn't talk on the phone, or text, or get on the internet. I had to simply be still. I read 100 pages that day. I sat and reflected on God and life and my future. I played with my dogs. I had my dogs with me all day because they were showing our house, and my dogs just had a blast exploring Tom's big backyard and playing ball, and Crowder found 4 different balls hidden under Tom's patio deck. And then Drake and Bryce came home from school, and they told me about their day. And it was one of the most relaxing and happiest days that I've had in a long time. I couldn't help but think of Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." I thought, why don't I have days like this more often? I mean, there's no excuse for it. It's simply because I haven't done the hard work of making time for my own happiness, true happiness. I mean, I'm not talking about just taking days off where we sleep and watch television and be lazy, as important as days like those are sometimes, but days when we remove all the distracting things in our lives and we show our devotion to God by just being still and reflecting on God and what's really important and essentially our purpose for this life. Taking the time to refocus yourself so that you're better focused in whatever else you do. Making that time for what is important, this important heart work of loving God, loving others, and loving ourselves. That's true happiness. Something that is important to Shannon and myself is praying before each meal. Shannon and I, we had a conversation early in our relationship about why praying before each meal is important. And I was skeptical because I thought, are we just doing this just because it's just some sort of meaningless task and ritual? Why do we need to pray before this meal? I mean, if we don't, does that mean the meal's not blessed? I mean, is it really about the food? We came to the conclusion that praying before each meal is not necessarily just about blessing the food. It's about taking the time to be intentional, to reflect on thanking God for our blessings and asking God to hear our prayers. Some of our pre-meal prayers have been more important than others. Some of them are just short and sweet. Some of them are long when we really need to lift someone else up in prayer or we're anxious about something. Sometimes we don't want to pray before our meals because we're in a bad mood, but we do it anyway. Sometimes we pray with other friends and family when they are with us. Sometimes we ask those we are with if it's okay for them to pray with us. And sometimes we just look at each other and know that we're going to say a little prayer to ourselves to not make those around us uncomfortable. But it's always about just being intentional about this time with God. We know we need to thank God for our blessings in our lives, and we need to ask God to be present in our lives. The pre-meal prayer is something simple, but it reflects this heart work we are seeking to do for ourselves and for our families. It's not about the food that we're about to eat necessarily, but it's about this value that we place on God being present in our lives. So I still have a little over a month with you all, but today is Shannon's last Sunday before she moves this Friday back to Texas. And while Shannon is present, I want to say how much we both appreciate the love that you all have shown to us. You have taught us so much about the right values for our family. I'm very, very appreciative of our Pastor-Parish Relations Committee because one of the things that y'all have done is make sure that I take care of myself and spend time with my family. And Shannon and I are happier now in our marriage, I think, than we have ever been. Excuse me. And I know that it has much to do with the value that you have placed on us taking time for each other. You have helped me take care of my own heart so that I can put my full heart into my family and into being your pastor. You all have been our family during our time here, and You always will be. So thank you again for the baby showers yesterday. And yes, we'll be sure and send baby pictures your way. Although if there is some way to get some of you on Facebook, this might be the way to do it. Yeah, nice costume. Well, I am so thankful for the values that my parents taught me when I was younger. Their love taught me how to love. Their time showed me how much they value me, and this taught me to do the same for my own family now and in the future. They taught me to value my time at church, even when I didn't want to go. They made me go. And they taught me to value school because I always knew to take grades seriously. But what I learned at home is what truly made me happy. My life at home has shaped everything else. And my prayer and passion has always been that you all may experience the same happiness in your own families. For Proverbs is right. What we learn at home when we're young, we will never stray from. What we express our devotion towards will change our hearts, our lives, and not to mention